Guys, drinking water is good for you. I drink a gallon a day. And everyone makes fun of me because this is what I drink out of. But I don't care because I am well hydrated. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Zoe and I'm here today to talk about some books. Wow. So lately all I've been doing, if you haven't noticed, are my monthly wrap-ups and my monthly book hauls, which are fun. I love doing them. It's a fun way to like log what I've been reading, but I wanted to change it up a little bit. I've been wanting to record this video for a long time, and it's just kind of like a general chatty video. I haven't prepared much for it, like at all, and I've had a very long day at work, so I'm kind of like scatterbrained right now. What's new, really, though? What is new about that? I'm gonna talk about some books that I personally love and books that I think are really underrated. I do watch a lot of BookTube. I am like stuck in a little bit of a rut because I've been watching kind of the same people for a while. So if you have, I want to know your favorite BookTuber. List them below. I want to know your favorite BookTuber, and I promise any BookTuber that you put below, I will watch at least one of their videos, because I want to just kind of expand my love for BookTube. So I watch a lot of the same BookTubers, and I think because of that, I get a lot, like I see a lot of the same book suggestions, mostly young adult, mostly contemporary, fantasy, sci-fi. So I am suggesting underrated books as far as I have not seen these books hyped that much from the usual BookTubers that I watch, which I watch a lot of the ones that are bigger. You probably watch them as well. I'm not gonna name them, but whatever. So with all that said, I'm just gonna talk about some books that I haven't really seen anyone else talk about, and I'm just gonna chat about them because I really, really love them, and I would love for more people to read them, because they just aren't promoted. They're underrated in my opinion. Like, I have not heard about them that much. I feel like I'm gonna record this video and you guys are gonna be like, I read that. Oh, I know what that is. I read that. Oh, where have you been, Zoe? Which is very, very probable. Whatever. These are underrated. IMO. I'm just gonna get started. So the first book that I love and I think that is underrated is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. Now, you wouldn't think this is underrated because look at this little medal right here. The Newbery medal, oh, John Newbery medal. I am a mess. I'm sure that plenty of people have actually read this one. I just haven't seen it talked about a lot, and this book is so good. This is one of those books that I enjoyed while I read it, but I didn't fully love it until like later on, when it just kind of continued to stick with me. I still think about the characters. I still really love the characters. I actually want to name, if I ever have a child, I want to name them after one of these characters, but I'm not gonna say who. But anyway, I just thoroughly loved this book. So a mini synopsis of this book is that there is this girl, a witch, a little monster, a little tiny dragon. Oh my god, the dragon's so cute. If you have the option to listen to the audiobook, the narrator does a phenomenal job and the dragon's voice is so cute. I want the dragon in real life. Basically, it's a fantasy middle grade book that follows our main character, who is a young girl who every year in this town, they are plagued by this evil witch that steals one baby every year. But in reality, the witch is not evil at all. In fact, the witch there's just this like big misunderstanding, because the witch is actually a very, very good witch, and they leave the baby in the woods, this town, and she rescues the baby from being put in the woods, and she like brings it to a new home. Well, this baby that she rescues this time, she accidentally feeds this baby moonlight, and that gives the baby, the child, like all of these special powers. So the witch decides to just adopt the baby herself, and we just get to see like this amazing relationship form between the little girl and the witch, and then the dragon, the little monster guy, and then the townspeople, and just kind of what unfolds there. And yeah, it's really really, really good. Really, really good. Like, it's good for, I think, all ages. It's super intriguing. It's really, like, just super lovable characters. And at the end of the day, this book just really comes down to, like, such a heartwarming message all about the power of love and, like, family. And it's so good. I, like, need to reread this all over again. I'm just remembering how much I adored this book. Really, really, really loved this book. Underrated, need to read. So the next book I'm gonna talk about, I have never heard of anyone talk about this book ever. I found it super randomly, like on an Amazon sale. I think it was like $4, and I was like, well, that sounds pretty good. So I bought it and I read it and I loved it. That book is called Sugar. This is by Deidre Riordan Hall. This is a young adult book that follows our main character, and she has a family of a mother and a brother and then herself, and they all live in this trailer park home, and all three of them are very, very overweight. Her mother is so overweight that she basically cannot leave her room, and then her brother is overweight and he is a terrible human being. Just a terrible human being. So Sugar is also overweight, also struggles very, very much with like food addiction and then abuse from her brother, from her mother, and basically has to take care of her mother while also just being like verbally, physically, mentally, emotionally abused by her family. So it's really, really intense. It made me sob my eyes out so badly. Sugar ends up meeting a boy named Even. Not Evan, his name is Even. And it's a story about her like meeting this boy, and you know, which some people I think maybe could hate, but he really does show her a different side of like what life has to offer. And for that reason, it's very, very sweet, very heartwarming. But at the end of the day, like, I don't want to give anything away. I'm not going to say too much more, but I just, man, I like flew through this book. Could not stop reading it. It's incredibly difficult to read in some chapters, but I really like, as someone who was pretty overweight in high school, I didn't like grow up with those other things that she had, but like just the bullying and feeling trapped and like emotionally eating and feeling addicted to food, and those are just things that I personally can understand and relate to. And it was refreshing to read from a character's point of view that is going through those kind of thoughts. For that reason, I just really, really liked it. I don't know, I just really liked it. I did really like the ending, and I think it's underrated. I haven't heard many people talk about it, and I think it's a fantastic read that a lot of people would really enjoy, especially if you enjoy YA contemporary with topics that are a little bit more like deep and maybe more difficult to read, not like necessarily just like heartwarming and fluffy. Like, this is a really, really, really great book. How many times can I say really? This is a really, really, really great book. Really. Oh, falling. Okay, so the next book that I think is underrated is another middle grade, and that is called Juniper Berry, A Tale of Terror and Temptation by M.P. Kozlowski. What a name. This is a middle grade book that follows two like middle school aged kiddos, and it is scary. I read this last year, I think during October, because I remember like I wanted to read all the spooky books, obviously. But I remember being pleasantly shocked at how kind of scary it was. And I picked this up at a used bookstore for like $5. I had no clue. I don't know anyone else who has read this book, but it's like, it follows like our main character, and her name is Juniper, and her family, her mother and her father, I believe are like Hollywood actors, rich, famous people, and they basically like, they live in this huge mansion, but they pretty much kind of ignore her. Her parents are like super cold, super distant, and she just feels so alone, as one would. Apparently though, her parents weren't always like that, and she thinks that there is something supernatural going on with them to make them be this way all of a sudden. So she has a little friend, his name is Giles, he's like a neighbor boy, and one rainy and cold night, they go out onto Juniper's mansion, and they discover like this little hole in this tree, and they go in the tree, and there's like a witch, but not really even like a witch. It's like a just like dark and sinister like person underworld thing that is kind of being like ominous, but here's how you can save your parents kind of thing. There's some pretty beautiful art in this and as well. I'm trying to find, well, this one's kind of scary, but so there's some really cool artwork in this as well, which I always love. Juniper and Giles end up needing to face their fears to save the ones that they love. And I just remember reading this book and thinking, first of all, wow, scary for middle grade, which I liked personally. And second of all, I thought that there were some really amazing themes of just like love and sacrifice, and how real love requires sacrifice, and that's something that I really love to see in stories, and I thought it was really elegantly displayed. Whether or not the author meant to do that, I really enjoyed reading that kind of overarching theme. I was just really surprised. I like finished the book and I was just like, well, that's not what I was expecting, but okay, like in a middle grade, I don't know. There's just some really fantastic, a lot of these books on my list are middle grade books, because there's just some middle grades out there that I always expect to be like fluffy and whatever, but they're really not, and I absolutely love that. So anyway, another really underrated book, Juniper Berry. Fantastic fall read if you love middle grade, if you love fall time spooky scary reads, if you love like kids like saving the day. I totally recommend this one. I think it's really, really good. The next book that I think is underrated and more people should read is actually one that I wouldn't be surprised if more people have read it, and that is Dangerous Girls by Abigail Haas. This I have actually already talked about a couple months ago, I think, because I read it a few months ago, but basically if you've ever seen the Amanda Knox case, like on Netflix, there's a little documentary, or if you know of the Amanda Knox case, it is essentially this book, which I did not expect and I was not prepared for when I picked it up and read it, but I was reading it and I had just watched like the week prior the Amanda Knox trials documentary on Netflix, and then I read this book and I was like, this is essentially the same thing. Kind of weird that they don't mention it at all, but that's what this book is. So this is pretty much a YA mystery thriller of a girl who goes on this trip. Her and a bunch of her, friends from America, they go on spring break. They go to this country to have spring break, and during the vacation, she's there with her boyfriend, she's there with her best friends, and one of her best friends ends up being murdered in their vacation house. And she basically ends up finding herself being the main suspect in this crime. So she pretty much is trapped in this country, in jail, doesn't speak the language, doesn't know what to do, and it goes back and forth between like the timeline of her being incarcerated for this crime, and then also like them while they were on vacation before the friend died and stuff like that. So we get like timeline flips, which I'm such a fan of, always love that, and really, really short chapters. I flew through this book. I probably finished this book in 2 days, which is pretty fast for me. It's also like almost 400 pages, so that's incredibly fast for me. In 2 days, it was just like so addicting. I think everyone that I've seen on Goodreads that has read this book is just like, I just flew through this. It's so fast. I couldn't put it down. Like, it's just really, really addicting. And the ending left me shook. And the writing is just really good. And it's just underrated. I think more people should read it. If you like YA mystery thrillers and you're looking for something like fast-paced that you can just get totally enamored by, pick this one up. The next thing I want to talk about is actually a manga series that I think is underrated. I mentioned this manga series a lot, so I promise I will not take a long time on it, but I do still think it's underrated. I have not heard people mention it. A lot of the other mangas I read, many people have read, but this manga series I do not hear of people reading often, and so I really want to recommend it and include it, and that is The Promised Neverland. I have right here volume 1, 2, and 3. Number 4 is over on my TBR shelf. I've read the first 3. I've loved the first 3. This manga is like super action-packed. It follows a bunch of kids at an orphanage, and they pretty much discover that the main mother figure of the orphanage, she's like the only adult caretaker there, is not who she says she is, and that the kids are in danger. And so we pretty much just followed this amazing group of kids that are so smart and so clever and witty and brave, and we just see them essentially trying to escape this orphanage. It is so cool. I really like it. It's super addicting, and I just pretty much think everyone needs to read it. Like, it's so good. I think I like it even more because it's not my typical choice in reading, but that's also because I didn't expect it to be as intense as it is. Like, when you read the first one, it's pretty much just like, there's these kids at this orphanage and there's a mystery, and it just sounds like, oh, that sounds kind of cool, kind of intriguing. Like, no, it's dark and I like it. Totally underrated manga. If you're looking for something cool, like fun to pick up, could be a really fun one to read also during October, Halloween, definitely like more fall vibes. I totally recommend this one. Really good. I keep ending all of my things with really good, but that's what it is. 2 more. Promise. Okay, so I can't have underrated books without including this one, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. I love this book, and I don't care what you say. Many people say it's like just another lame YA contemporary, like sci-fi contemporary that no one cares about, which is totally fine. I don't care. And that's what I love about art, is that like it's super up for interpretation, and what someone loves, another person can hate, and that's totally fine. That is the best part about art, is that it's just personal. Anyway, getting off my little soapbox. This is such a cool book. I picked it up thinking it was gonna be okay, but there was just something about the character that stuck with me. I have not seen anyone else talk about this book on BookTube or on Twitter or anything. I do have one friend who read it after me, and she thought it was really weird, which is totally fine because it is weird. The synopsis, you read it and you're kind of just like, okay, but I recommend picking this up and not reading the synopsis. Don't read the synopsis, don't read reviews, just pick it up and go with it. That's my best advice for this book, as I tell you what it's about. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not gonna give too much away because I liked the fact that I read it just not expecting anything. What I knew about it was that it's about a girl in space, and she is the only one on this spacecraft, and not on purpose, like that. And that's basically all I knew. This is the UK version, which I love so much, but the US version has like this really cool minimalistic girl just sitting in like a window looking out into like space, and that's like the picture I get when I think of this book. Just this girl in space, and she is lonely AF. That's basically the gist of it. There's stuff that happens, there's stuff that goes on. We learn a lot about how and why she's the only person in this spacecraft, what her mission is, how she survives, and I really liked it on a personal level. I just really related to this character because she was learning so much and she was growing so much throughout the book, and she had to do it all while she was just scared. And I deal personally with a lot of fear and anxiety in my life, and a lot of things unfortunately make me scared. And to read a character who is just transparently like so afraid, but like had no choice but to do the things that she did and like survive and keep going, I don't know, there was just something really relatable to that. So, and then to just feel like she was doing it alone the whole time, because that's kind of how fear can make you feel, like you're alone the whole time. And so I was not expecting that in this book, and I absolutely adored it. I really loved it, and now I want to reread it. Okay, bye. I'm just gonna stop this video and go read it because I love it so much. So recommend this book. Underrated, very good. Also just a read that was like super easy to get through, really easy writing. I recommend this one. Read this one. Read it. Also, like, hey, it's beautiful. My cats took a bite out of it. Sorry. How gorgeous is that cover? Okay, I'm done. The last book I want to talk about, I basically wanted to do this video just because I wanted to talk about this book because it is so underrated and it is so good. It's so good. So the last book I want to talk about that I think is underrated and more people need to read is called The Green Glass House by Kate Milford. Now, First of all, this cover is so pretty. I want it in a giant art thing on my wall. Like, it's this gorgeous house, and this is the house that, like, where the book takes place, and it's called the Green Glass House. It's this big old mansion on this big snowy hill in this little town, and it has all stained glass windows, and oh my gosh, like, could you ask for a more beautiful setting? No. This is a middle grade that I read last winter, and you need to read this during winter when you're just cozied up by the fire with a cup of a warm beverage that you love. Oh my goodness, this book is so good. So this is a middle grade. I love this middle grade, and it is about a young boy, I think he's Asian, which is cool. His name is Milo, and he's so cool, he's adorable. And his parents own this B&B, basically. It's like this B&B, and they live in a town that like a shipper's town, like a trader's town. People come and go all the time at their town. At the town, they actually have to take like this tram up into the Green Glass House, and it's just really cool. Beautiful scenery, beautiful imagery, written exquisitely well. So it's set around Christmas time, and Milo and his family are gearing up for just one of the worst winters ever. It's freezing cold, the snow's blowing like crazy. Milo's just hoping that no one comes to stay at the B&B. When it's time for Christmas, he just wants to be there with his parents. He wants to enjoy the time that he's off from school. But of course, that's not how it happens, and a ton of random people start coming to stay at the B&B. All of these people end up being kind of like sketchy. They all end up being like smugglers. They all seem to be like intertwined, but we don't know why, and it's really cool. So you get this whole big broad cast of characters, and you get to learn about them and hear their stories through a young boy's point of view. And then halfway through the book, a young girl comes along, and so they kind of team up and they try to find out like these little mysteries that are happening. And it was such an atmospheric read. I can picture the house, I can smell the house, I could hear the creaky floorboards and the people talking and the crackling fire, and it was such an immersive reading experience for me that I just absolutely adored this book, and I really, really think it needs more hype. I did see that one booktuber read it recently, and I was so happy because I just hope that more and more people get a chance to pick this one up. Again, I highly recommend reading this in the winter time, especially if you live in like the cold. There's actually a second one, and I believe a third one. I'm not positive, but there is for sure a second one that I'm dying to read in the next coming months when the snow starts falling and all that. So I really recommend this one. Probably out of all of them that I mentioned, this one is just it was so surprising to me, and it is such a fantastic read. Absolutely brilliant writing. I cannot recommend this one enough. All right, you guys, well, those are all the books that I think are super underrated, need more hype. I need more people to read them. And if you have read any of these books, let me know. I want to know that I'm not alone and that I have other friends that have read these books. I want to chat with you about them. Give me your thoughts. Tell me if you like them or not. That's all I have today. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon in my next video. Bye!